After being reborn, I finally made the decision to let Willow go. She wanted to dedicate herself to scientific research, so I chose to retreat to the mountains and take up teaching. She was attached to her assistant, Makoto, so I simply called off our engagement. In my past life, I had trapped her with family obligations. She spent her entire life as Makoto's mistress, never having a legitimate relationship. And when I fell ill and passed away, I realized I too had wasted an entire life. After my rebirth, the first thing I did was sign up for a teaching program in the mountains. Seeing the transfer notice felt like stepping into a completely new world. The teaching leader, who had always guided me, smiled with satisfaction. Of all the new teachers, I had the highest hopes for you. Before, you said your fiancé was in Beijing and unwilling to leave, but now you've made up your mind. Willow was a proud and talented woman. She came from a prestigious family and was a rising star in her research institute. Her career shone brightly, while I had a stable but unremarkable job. Without the childhood engagement tying us together, there was no way we could have ended up as a couple. I looked the leader in the eye. "I want to do something meaningful," I said. He patted my shoulder. "Teaching in the mountains won't be easy. Mentally prepare yourself. But no matter how hard it is, it won't be worse than your last life." I nodded. In my previous life, I had never made it to the mountains to teach, and it became a lifelong regret. The Liu family pushed us to marry. Less than a month after our wedding, Willow became pregnant. She didn't want to have the child, saying her research was at a critical stage, but I, desperate for a complete family, took on all the household responsibilities. From that moment on, I was trapped in domestic life. Willow thought it was natural and rarely returned home, busy with experiments and publishing papers. As her career soared, Makoto accompanied her everywhere, taking care of both her work and personal needs. Meanwhile, I was stuck at the Liu family home, raising our son and caring for the elderly. I raised our son alone, believing he respected me as his father, until the day I saw him engaged to Makoto's niece. In their private room, he smiled broadly and called Makoto, "Dad, would you like some tea?" I confronted him. He shrugged. "Dad, my mom's work is monumental. You've been given the title of father, but you can't have her heart, too. Honestly, with your education, do you even have anything in common with her?" He believed only Willow was trapped by family and that I was the unfortunate victim. But why should it be that way? When we were young, I asked her what she wanted, and she agreed to the arranged marriage. I had given up the career I loved, she faced tough research tasks, and I worked tirelessly to manage the family. I ran back and forth between the family and the school, arranging doctor visits, buying medicine, and paying bills. By the time Willow reached retirement, she had become a leader in her field. Meanwhile, I remained confined to a small school plot, seeing fewer and fewer accomplishments. Everyone, even our son, thought Makoto was better suited to be by her side, but I refused. After our last argument, my son abandoned me in the nursing home. No one was at my deathbed. I regretted it deeply. If I was born again, I vowed never to give up on my own life. Back at the apartment, I carefully put away the admission letter. A honey cake gradually took shape under my hands. This was the Liu family home, convenient for work, and where Willow and I had lived together. On the living room calendar, I marked a large red circle. In 2 weeks, I could leave and live the life I wanted. Just as I finished, Willow returned with Makoto and his niece Emma. Seeing me, Makoto smiled cheerfully. "George, Willow asked me to come up for a visit. Hope I'm not causing trouble." Emma, familiar with the house, sniffed the sweet aroma of the cake and rushed into the kitchen, dividing it into 3 portions for them, but none for me. I watched them silently as they laughed and chatted. When they tasted the cake, they immediately spat it out. "Uncle, it's so bitter." I stood still, while Willow frantically offered tissues and tea. Makoto forced a smile as he left, his usual dimples gone. "George, your skills need improvement," he said with exaggerated patience. Willow didn't respond and returned inside. I quietly placed another slice of cake in front of me, eating in silence. Finally, Willow spoke. Emma is my sister's orphaned child. Before she passed, she asked me to care for Makoto. I let her try your desserts because you're good at making them. If it bothers you, I'll stop bringing them over in the future." The next day, I awoke early to pack my bags for the city. Since I had decided to break off the engagement, it was better to make it clear now. While packing, I found a little clay doll, a gift from Willow as a child. Back then, she had said, "George, my mom said you'll be my husband, so I'm giving this to you." I packed the doll into my suitcase. I didn't want it anymore, and I didn't want her. I drew a large X on the calendar. In 14 days, I would leave. That night, Willow returned late. She glanced at the dishes on the table and said casually, "I ate out." She knew that bringing Makoto home would make me angry. I hadn't made her any food, so there was no conflict. After dinner, I went to my room to organize materials for the start of school. Willow appeared silently behind me. I closed my laptop. "What's wrong?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment before replying, "The wedding planner and hotel contacted me. Can we set the date for September 1st? I looked at her. In my past life, she treated our relationship like work, perfect on the surface, but distant. She seemed indifferent to love, marriage, children, and family. I realized only I had suffered in that marriage. I asked her calmly, "Willow, have you thought this through?" She froze, clearly not expecting the question. Then she said the same words I had heard in the past. "George, you're the only man I've ever considered my husband." This time, I didn't hesitate. Marriage is important. We should discuss it with our parents. The date can wait. Let's give it more time. She seemed relieved and quickly changed the topic, smiling. "It's late and you're still preparing lesson plans. Don't tire yourself out." These were for the children in the mountain village, my new path, the life I had chosen without Willow. The next morning, a bowl of crab roe wontons sat on the table, my favorite. Willow rarely showed such thoughtfulness. She hesitated before speaking. "George, I can't go with you to your parents' place this time. Emma's sick and Makoto can't handle it alone." Perfect. The excuse kept her from following me. I nodded, and she rushed out. 13 days remained. Today, I would go home to officially break the engagement. At the Liu family home, the living room was quiet and heavy. Mrs. Liu tried to speak, but swallowed her words repeatedly. Finally, she said, "Even if she has feelings for Makoto, you're still engaged. If she goes back on her word, I'll handle it." Mr. Liu spoke decisively. "Since you've chosen to break off the engagement, we respect your decision. But George, our relationship won't change. We'll always consider you one of our closest juniors." Willow was the apple of everyone's eye, but I understood. My decision was showing awareness, taking initiative, and ending all entanglements. The engagement was officially called off. To prevent complications, I lied, saying Willow was busy and asked me to return alone. Mrs. Liu seemed guilty and urged me to stay a bit longer. I didn't mind. For 10 days, Willow only called once. She maintained her usual businesslike attitude, never showing concern, never letting her guard down. When I returned, I marked 10 large red X's on the calendar. Only 4 days remained. I was packing to leave when I heard the door open. Willow stood there with Makoto and Emma. She seemed surprised. "You're back?" she asked. Makoto and Emma casually entered my room, closing the door behind them without hesitation. My living room was a mess, my things scattered. Embarrassed, Willow explained. "Makoto's house had a leak after the rain, so they're staying here temporarily. I saw you weren't home, so I let him use your room for now." I hadn't even told her about the broken engagement, yet she and Makoto acted as if nothing had changed. Meeting my cold, distant gaze, Willow offered, "You can sleep in my room for now." She opened her bedroom door and added, "Where are your books? There's hardly anything left in your room." I calmly explained that I had sold them. "After marriage, I will focus on family, so these things aren't necessary." She frowned. "Even if you're married, some of these things could be useful. Self-improvement matters at any stage. But fine, if you want to sell them, do it." She always knew everything, but didn't care. Enjoying my sacrifices while infatuated with Makoto, it wasn't right. I pursed my lips, saying nothing. She finally asked about my parents. I paused. I checked the date. It's not a good one. We can talk later. 4 days left. I needed time to leave and explain everything clearly. Willow sighed a relief, forced a smile, and hurried to the kitchen, unaware of the big X's I'd drawn on the calendar. I quietly sat by the window, listening to the voices of the 3 people downstairs, the man's deep voice, the woman's sweet tone, the child's adorable chatter. Even though the engagement was over, living under the same roof with her felt completely inappropriate, let alone sharing the same room. But with only 4 days left, I knew I wouldn't have time to find a proper place to rent. So after some thought, I decided I would eat and then sleep on the living room floor for the night. The next morning, I hadn't even fully woken up when Emma was already making a ruckus in the living room. Makoto ignored her, clattering around in the kitchen, while Willow sat on the sofa, smiling as she watched them. Perhaps this was the image of a perfect family in her mind. I used the excuse of needing groceries and hurried out. Outside, I took a deep breath. Neighbor Hungjae spotted me and came over. "George, you're back. I thought you were visiting your in-laws," she teased playfully. "Not my in-laws," I replied. Hungjae froze, then laughed, assuming I was just being polite about Willow's reputation. "Right, not your in-laws yet. You'll have to wait until you're actually married to call them that." She noticed my change in expression and hesitated, but couldn't resist scolding me. "While you were away, little you brought men home. I asked her about it, and she said you were okay with it. That man looks like trouble. How could you approve that? You're not even married yet. George, open your eyes. Willow has everything going for her. If it weren't for your engagement, I'd be introducing her to my nephew. One man after another chases her, but she's only ever standing by Makoto's side. She even told others it was your decision, so Makoto wouldn't get blamed. She thinks of everything." I stayed silent. Hungjae, noticing my quiet demeanor, clicked her tongue. "Keep an eye out while staying at home," she warned before leaving. When I returned, the living room was empty, but I heard rustling from the basement. Soon, Emma bounced upstairs holding a torn piece of old paper. It was the portrait I'd drawn of Willow last New Year's Eve, her expression cold, yet with a faint, gentle smile. The scene outside the window was warm and spring-like, fireworks lighting the night sky. At that moment, Willow's eyes had been focused entirely on me. I had once believed our married life would be filled with such simple, happy moments. I never expected that would be the only time she truly looked at me. The paper was dirty and sticky from sugar stains. Makoto appeared behind Emma. "She's just a child, George. You won't hold it against her, right?" His tone was gentle, but the smugness in his eyes was enticable. I replied coldly, "If you see her misbehaving, teach her properly." Makoto seemed surprised. Emma, reading the atmosphere perfectly, charged at me, slapping her sticky hands across my shirt. "You're not allowed to bully my uncle," she shouted. Willow rushed in and grabbed her, but I didn't look at her. My gaze stayed on the fallen drawing. Willow followed my gaze, frozen for a moment, understanding. She opened her mouth to speak, but swallowed her words. Makoto, feigning innocence, muttered, "Willow, I'm sorry. It's my fault for not watching Emma." I laughed. They all looked at me, startled. I picked up the torn drawing, holding it to the light. I didn't draw it right back then. The lighting wasn't this bright. After that, I threw it away. Expressionless, I walked into the kitchen, leaving Willow staring after me. I didn't care that Emma was still crying. Willow followed me into the kitchen, hesitating before finally speaking. "I've been looking for a new place these past few days. Makoto and Emma will be moving out soon. I know you don't like him, but could you just bear with it a little longer?" Without thinking, I nodded. Sure. There were only 3 days left before I left. How they would live here afterward was not my problem. I agreed too quickly, and Willow's face fell green and pale. She probably thought I was angry. She sighed. "Emma's just a child. I'm only taking care of them because I promised my sister. Makoto isn't doing well either. Can you not think badly of him?" I sneered. So you bring him back and claim it's my decision? Willow gasped, unable to respond. I laughed. Despite her noble words, her inner turmoil showed. I had no intention of interfering with her life beyond respect for our parents. The next morning, I woke early, remembering Emma's behavior. Some of my things were still in the basement. Taking advantage of everyone still sleeping, I collected my belongings. Despite starting to pack 10 days ago, many things remained. I packed carefully, wanting no lingering connection with Willow. 3 large bags were ready. Willow had already made breakfast. She froze when she saw my bags. "Where are you taking all these?" she asked. "Throwing them out. Too much useless stuff," I replied calmly. She glanced at them and looked away, then called Makoto. "Get up and bring Emma. Breakfast is ready." At the dining table, Emma scooted her food closer to Makoto. Willow, holding a fried egg, smiled awkwardly. "Good girl, Emma. Can you share some with Uncle Wang?" I ignored her and walked out. With only a few days left before school, I needed to buy books and supplies for the children in the mountains. I also booked a hotel room. Staying under the same roof as Willow was unbearable. Returning home, I found Emma playing with my lesson plan. Furious, I shouted, "What are you doing?" I grabbed my passport, causing her to fall off the table. Her shrill cries brought Makoto running. "What are you doing? Who told you to bully Emma?" he shouted, shoving me aside. "Bully her? Look at what she did. Get out of here," I demanded. Makoto, still holding Emma, coldly stared at me. "You're not even married to Willow yet. You have no right here. Even if you did marry her, you still couldn't win against me." He slammed the door behind him. Makoto's hostility always appeared when Willow wasn't around. In the past, I had always retreated. Makoto followed Willow, growing independent, and everyone praised them as the perfect team. I seemed insignificant. But now, reborn, I felt at peace. He might be excellent, but I have my own light. Why should Makoto and I always be measured against each other? Willow isn't worth it. I had my own path, teaching in the mountains, sharing knowledge with children, contributing to education, broadening my horizons. The mud of past regrets would no longer hinder me. When I first returned, I had thought about revenge, causing trouble at his workplace or exposing him online. But what would it accomplish? Willow had 100 ways to take care of Makoto, and she wouldn't even look at him if she didn't want to. Why waste my life on a failed love? I told Makoto seriously, "No matter what your relationship with Willow, it's none of my business. I'm not marrying her. Focus on her, don't provoke me, or I might change my mind." Makoto froze, waved his hand, but seemed afraid to anger me further. Finally, he retreated to his room. I finished packing, took one last look at the apartment, and left. Nothing was worth missing. At the hotel, I packed and typed a message to Willow. I didn't reveal my destination, just that I had decided to teach in the mountains and that our engagement was off. We would go our separate ways. Before sending it, there was a knock. Willow stood there, out of breath. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She gasped, "Finally found you. I'm glad you're okay." Expecting blame, I stayed silent. Willow squeezed past me, starting to pack my things. I hid my phone, but her eyes fell on my large bags. "Where are you going?" she asked. I made up an excuse. Emma was rummaging through my stuff. I brought it out so she wouldn't mess it up. She relaxed. I scolded her. "Don't argue with a child." I played along. She frowned. "Are you still upset? Emma was wrong, but she's just a child. Why make a fuss?" I looked coldly at her. She stopped speaking. I asked softly, "Does Makoto know you came to find me?" Willow looked embarrassed. "What does it matter? Why bring him up?" I continued, "I guess he doesn't know, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be standing here. I'm your engagee. If we argued, it's natural for you to come. But why avoid mentioning me around him?" I called her name softly. "If you don't love me, just let me go." Willow's face paled. After a long pause, she said, "Since you're not going back, stay here and reflect. I'll come back to pick you up in a few days."
I expressionlessly shut the door, thinking how laughable it was that she treated preparing for the wedding and marrying me as some great favor. After Willow left, I bought my train ticket and went out to have a meal with close colleagues. We were about to go our separate ways. One classmate hesitated, then asked, "George, weren't you about to get married? Why teach in the mountains?" I smiled. "We're not married. The world is so big, I want to see more of it. Here's to youth, friendship, and myself." I slept soundly that night, despite expecting a restless night. At dawn, I headed straight for the train station. Before boarding, I sent Willow the message I had drafted. We were calling off the engagement and going our separate ways. When the train moved, I felt light. For a moment, I imagined my past self whispering, "Thank you." Arriving at the vast, desolate mountains, I felt like crying. The step I couldn't make in my past life was now so easy. I reported to the school and dove into teaching, dedicating every moment to lesson plans and classes. During my second year, villagers began trusting me. I could feel the impact I was making. One classmate later told me Willow had married Makoto. She had entered marriage for responsibility, as a daughter and mother, but never as a wife. He said, "When you left to teach in the mountains, I thought you were losing Willow. Now I see that a man living his own life is truly admirable. George, you've earned our admiration." 5 years later, I completed my teaching mission, having nurtured a generation of outstanding children. Though the road was long and difficult, the fulfillment I felt was incomparable.